So over the last month, maybe 6, 8 weeks or so, we've been talking about rents getting soft. We've talked about Ivy Zellman and her call for the housing market, too much building. Well, we just got a very interesting article or post from Jay Parsons that we're going to talk about basically the net demand for apartments ending in negative territory. And if you don't know what that means, we are about to find out. In order to have this conversation, we're going to bring in on the one and only Mr. Jonathan Twomley. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Michael. Good to see you again after our holiday break.
Absolutely. Happy
Yeah,
New
I
Year.
miss Happy New Year to you too. I missed this part of my week the last couple of weeks, but it's good to be back. So yeah, and this is great. So first show of 2023, we've got some interesting data coming out. Jay Parsons, if you're interested in um, apartments, is somebody that you should follow on LinkedIn. He's the chief economist for RealPage, and he posts just some really intelligent stuff and engages with his audience too. So he'll answer questions that you respond to when he posts and stuff. But I wanted to, this popped up sort of just before we got on the call, where Jay Parsons was saying that so net demand for apartments ended in negative territory for 2022, which means that more renters moved out than moved in. But what's really interesting about this is that so this hasn't happened for a while, right? The last time that we had this kind of like what's called negative absorption, right, was 2009, and it really coming out of the financial crisis. We were technically out of it, but it still felt like we were in it. Sorry to kill that. And so the sorry, I lost my train of thought because of that phone call. So the last time this happened was 2009, coming out of the great financial crisis. So we were kind of emerging from the crisis, but it didn't feel like it, right? And I think that's an
Right.
important point to remember here as to why this is going on. So the last time this happened was 2009. At 2009, it was because the demand side of the equation collapsed, right? People started moving out; they were foreclosed on. I mean, that didn't, being foreclosed obviously doesn't affect your apartment rentals, but people were like not renewing their leases and they were moving out, and new people were not coming in. What's happened this time, though, is that turnover has remained pretty close to these low historic levels that we've been seeing recently, but there's always some natural attrition, right? People move out, they move away, life circumstances happen, tenants die. I mean, all kinds of stuff happens, right? That causes some just natural turnover. But the new people are not coming in. And the reason that the new people are not coming in is because of the economic environment that, even though the data says it's still strong, the perception popularly is that the economy is going into recession and people are kind of scared. So they're not making big new purchases or big new life decisions like moving into an apartment, right? So,
Yeah.
and this is really affecting sort of like your new recent grad type people, like the people who just got out of college, sort of, prime renters, new jobs, whatever. And instead of going and renting apartments, they're staying at home with their parents or they're moving in with friends. And so you've just got this negative,
Yeah,
vacancy rate.
this is very much kind of to be expected. Um we've talked about everything was going right for the multifamily space for a couple of years, and you and I have been very clear that those were all going to regress to the mean. And not, we talk about rents a lot because that's kind of a headline number, but we've also talked about occupancy, we've talked about turnover, we've talked about just demand. And I read an article the other day. It's from memory, so I'll probably be off, but something like 46% of recent graduate millennials are going home, right? They're basically going back to parents, which is an abnormally high number. And that's all because of fear, right? You don't make large decisions.
Yep.
And you do this, you have this going on, and let's be clear, this down cycle is just started. This won't get better tomorrow. And oh, by the way, we have Ivy Zellman talking about supply coming on in some very
Well,
dominant markets. That could be a double whammy. Because again, I don't think we have oversupply in the country, but there are a couple of cities that have a
yeah.
lot of cranes going on at the exact wrong time. So that could be a double whammy in those
Yeah,
cities.
I definitely want to talk about that a little bit more too, because Jay Parsons has definitely taken a position on that as well,
Awesome.
which I think is not as dire as Ivy Zellman,
Mm,
right? But just to
awesome.
continue the point, I mean, we've been seeing this softening of rents. It's been a conversation for a couple of months now about how there's been, you know, the huge rent growth that we've seen has stopped, and it's actually gone into reverse in certain cities. And some of the cities are the what used to be the usual suspects, right? Like places like Phoenix and Las Vegas and Atlanta, places
Mhm.
where it's easy to build, and you get a lot of supply coming on very easily in boom times. And that's sort of like typical, the way that it's been in the past. We're seeing that happen again, but now we're seeing sort of why that is. And the reason the rents are softening is because, as apartments are freeing up, there's not the line out the door for the new apartments, right? So landlords are offering concessions to try to get people in. They're lowering rents a little bit to try to get
Mhm.
people in the door and keep those occupancies high. And if you think about what's been going on in the market in general over the last few years, I think that a lot of these apartment owners are a little bit on, it's kind of like a knife's edge, if you want, right? Because
Yeah.
they have really overpaid for their apartments on the assumption that um, very strong rent growth and high occupancies were going to continue. And frankly, if you were being really conservative about your underwriting, like I am, it made it very difficult to buy apartments because
Yeah.
you couldn't compete with people who were willing to make aggressive assumptions. So, but I think a lot of people sort of, they bought on those aggressive assumptions, and as I said for years, like everything has got to work out perfectly for you to make money, because you've basically given up all of your margin of safety. Everything is priced to perfection, and this can't last forever. Well, now here we are, where forever is over, and
Mhm.
uh, we're going to see some difficult times when you combine this softening. To be sure, like we're not in a crisis now, right? Like
No.
occupancies are still high.
Mhm.
It's not like market like vacancies have spiked.
Not
It's
yet.
just that they're trending upwards, right? In spite of the fact, as Jay Parsons is talking about, the new grads got jobs, right?
Hmm.
All the tech layoffs that we're hearing about, those people are getting reemployed almost immediately, right?
Correct.
They're not like on unemployment for weeks and weeks and weeks. I mean, they're getting snapped up right away by other tech firms. And so there isn't any kind of unemployment problem right now. Unemployment is still at like 3.7%, right? Michael and I are both old enough to remember that like the natural rate of unemployment was 5% forever and ever and ever and ever, right? And
Yeah.
so,
Well, dude, when I got my degree, it was 6.
but the
Yeah.
natural,
Now
what was
it's
considered
at
the
5.
natural rate of unemployment? I mean, I
Yeah.
remember,
Yeah.
yeah,
My econ degree, we always assumed that 6% was full employment. Full employment.
yeah,
I mean, it was on my exams, 6% full
yeah.
employment. Then it was 5, and now all of a sudden we got used to 3.7, 3.5.
That's right. And I
Yeah.
don't think that 3.7 is necessarily considered, I still think it's considered beyond full employment, right?
I hope
So
so.
yeah,
Yes.
I don't think that they've moved the definition of full employment to 4%.
No.
I think it's still 5%. But
Hmm.
I mean, look, we're still in this like very, very strong job market. And nevertheless, people are
Yeah.
skittish about like,
This is
about
what
renting
happens in a
apartments.
recession. When people get afraid, and again, the media drives this. The
Yeah.
consumer is a creature that is led by the media. And what have they been hearing for 6 months? Recession, recession,
Right.
recession, recession,
So
recession, recession, recession.
so these new grads, right? They're afraid of getting laid off and having a
Mm-hmm.
lease to pay. So
Mm-hmm.
because they keep on reading about layoffs, right? And so at some point, when does it become a self-fulfilling prophecy where people stop spending money because they've been told there's going to be a recession, right?
Yep.
So and maybe that's what the Fed is trying to,
Oh, I think
cause
so. Yeah.
anyway, right?
Yeah.
So um, but I mean, we have to sort of like remind ourselves that when, the Fed is talking about driving unemployment up to 5%. Well, that's like what we used to consider a good economy, right?
Yeah.
5% unemployment.
Yeah.
So
And based
put
on the
things in
ADP,
perspective.
yeah, based on the ADP report this morning, I don't know if you saw it, it just came out. Expectations were for 157,000 private payroll jobs created in December, came in at 235,
Yeah.
a
And
40% beat. And
and
wage inflation's at 7%.
And I don't know if you saw this, but new jobless claims
Down
are back
205.
down. Yeah, back down to where they were pre-COVID, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
Fed's
the
got
so
more work to do.
Fed's got more work to do, right? But at the same time, like people are they're they're all thinking. I mean, all you hear is the R word everywhere you go,
Yeah.
and there's like no evidence that it's happening, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, could it happen? Might it happen? Yes, but I mean, now today I see it. I see in the news people the new word is slow session, right?
Oh, I saw that. Mark Zandy.
Yeah,
Credit to Mark
yeah.
Zandy for that one.
So
Yeah.
we're not going to have a recession. We're just going to have slow growth for a couple
Yeah.
of quarters. And look, if that happens, nobody's even going to notice, right? But
No. Yeah.
like it's anyway. But the point, we're kind of get a little off topic. The point I really wanted to make with this discussion is that when you are don't believe the hype, folks. Right? For the
Yes.
last few years, the multifamily apartment market drank a lot of its own Kool-Aid, right? And there was just this echo chamber that is like, and look, I mean, we're part of it, you and I, Michael, but we try to be
Mhm.
voices of reason here, right? But
Yeah.
there's this echo chamber of like multifamily is great. It's how to get rich. It's never going to go bad. We have this, the shortage of housing in the
Yeah.
country, blah, 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 blah. Interest rates will go down forever. Demand will
Yeah.
go up forever. You can't lose. I mean, literally, this was the message that was being sent out. You
Yeah.
can't lose, right? And I was out there saying, well, folks,
Sure,
you
you
can,
can.
you can,
Yeah, you
you
can.
can, you can, you can lose.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not losing now, but you can.
Yeah.
And people criticize me for saying that.
Yeah.
And look, it made it difficult for me to buy apartments because I didn't want to be like, I knew what the potential was.
Yeah.
And so now we're seeing it. Now we're seeing that you have to always be conservative in a real sense. You have to build in a margin of safety. When everybody around you is talking about something, that's when you should be getting a little bit nervous about it. And now we're
Oh, I
seeing
totally
the
agree.
impact of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think there's a lot of things in the multifamily space that went right. Again, both you and I sold. We sold early,
yeah.
but because we thought we were heading into a recession back then, we both by selling early, we quote unquote lost money. We left, or at least left money on the table. And being conservative is hard in an echo chamber that everybody is winning. It's hard to be the sober person at the party. And well, the cops have shown up. Now there's a bunch of drunk people, and we're the only sober people. So we're going to go to video number 2 and talk about just how excited we are for what's coming, because there's a lot of drunk people that are going to need bail, and we're going to get some pretty good deals. But before that,
Absolutely.
Jonathan, how can people find you?
Yeah, well, you should go join my free Facebook group, which is called Apartment Investors Club. And so please go to Apartment Investors Club and join the conversation there. You can also join my mailing list by going to apartmentinvestorsclub.com, and there's a free download there for you, as you've probably seen before in the show. I do want to make an announcement about a conference that we are hosting. Omar Khan and I of Boardwalk Wealth are hosting a conference on April 26th to 28th in Las Vegas at the Link Hotel. This is really going to be great. We have a lineup, just a huge lineup of great speakers for this event. We're going to be talking about, all the stuff that Michael and I talk about on the show, but really going into depth with a bunch of experts about, the changes to the market in 2023, how you profit from this new market situation, what the debt and equity markets are like. I mean, we're going to cover everything in this, day and a half long conference. If you would like to join this conference, please join my mailing list. You'll be able to see, the information going out daily about this. We are running a special on tickets right now, but between now and the end of the month. So the ticket prices will go up by $100 at the end of the month. So if you want the cheapest and the cheap seats, now's the time to sign up. But I really encourage you to come to this conference. It's going to be terrific. And I look forward to meeting all of you in person. So so please come and get on the mailing list, and you'll find out all the info.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Absolutely.